Welcome to SceneTV. I'm Markus, and today we're at the Intercontinental Hotel in the city where we're catching up with Australian music icon Kate Ceberano. Kate's been in town for the Adelaide Fringe, and we're going to find out everything else she's been up to just recently. Hi, Kate, and welcome to Adelaide.
Hello.
Is it good to be back?
Yeah, it's great, but it's great to be sitting here talking with you. I mean, we've only ever spent social time at the Adelaide Cabaret Festival. To be here sitting in amongst this glamorous environment with your glamorous ensemble, or rather entourage, should I say.
They are a little bit glamorous, aren't they?
They are a little bit
I
glamorous.
do adore them.
Yeah.
I do. I know.
It's always nice to have your own people.
It is nice to have your own people and friendly your own people as well. Look, you know what? In all honesty, you're part of the furniture now. You know what? Let's not say furniture. You're part of the family now, aren't you? I was thinking about it as I was getting ready this morning. It's like that trundle bed that I've got set up in the lounge for you that is just permanently made up. You are one of Adelaide's own now, essentially.
Yeah, I feel that way. I feel very loyal to Adelaide because I think because of the familial aspect, people have taken me in. They had me as the sort of, the ambassador of local tourism during Adelaide Cabaret. It seemed I was pimped out from every state and every place to go and sell the Cabaret Festival, which I have to say was one of the greatest highlights of my career and a great privilege. There's something about Adelaide audiences as well. Last night we did the Spiegel tent, and it was the bigger one, so it was about 500 or 600 people. And I just marvelled, first of all, how organised Adelaide people are at getting in and out of venues. The turnaround's really fast during Fringe time, that they are so willing to be entertained, and they, as an audience, are a very educated audience. They really know that their responsibility as an audience is just as great as the artist. So, for instance, the artist can't fire without their enthusiasm. And I love the way an Adelaide audience will, they'll just yell at you and they'll express how much they love you, or they'll, they're quick to stand and yeah, they're just super vocal. I went to Prince's concert in Melbourne, and this is the difference, right?
He's an idol of yours, isn't he?
He is. What I love about him, apart from being like virtuoso across every instrument and singing, he's stratospheric. He just can go across any range. But I love his integrity, and I love the way he sees himself and his value to society. It's really important. So I'm sitting in a Melbourne audience. This is just to show the difference between a Melbourne audience and an Adelaide audience. And I was the first one and only one in a standing ovation at the end of his first set. Yeah, wow. First night set, which to me told me one of two things, right? That's one, how I would love an audience to receive me, clearly, because I was doing for him what I'd want done for me. But two, like, what snobs? It's almost like they were sort of saying, like, come on, impress me. You got to work for your standing ovation. And I was like, do you know what? That's to me a sign of artistic ignorance. In America, if someone had just done what he had just done, it would have been such a rousing experience that the audience couldn't resist. They'd have to throw themselves up and into that and be part of his performance. The audience is a part of your performance in that moment. It's not a sign of gratitude. It's that we had this moment, it happened, and we agree that I made an emotional impact on you, and you made an emotional impact on me. I love that exchange.
Yeah, I do too. It is. It's one big environment. It's not the stage and the audience, is it?
No.
It is this big inclusivity about it all.
Yeah.
Maybe in some ways, the audiences have got a little bit lazy, perhaps, in Melbourne and Sydney. Maybe,
they've perhaps gotten a bit introverted.
Yeah.
They may be more concerned about how they're being perceived by others. Because in and at that moment, I could see the audience look at me like going, oh my God, that's Kate Ceberano. She's the only one standing, right? And yet I was looking at them going, oh my God, you're a Melbourne audience. How embarrassing.
Yeah.
I just thought for them, you guys are unfulfilled. I am fulfilled. I was deeply satisfied by what I just experienced, know. So I thought that they were too concerned about, maybe they didn't know themselves if they liked it or not.
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
Maybe.
And maybe they were waiting for someone else to stand up before they could make up their mind whether they liked it or not. Now, I'd like to think that I'm a person who could be really opinionated and have my own strong opinion, right or wrong. Because like Kurt Cobain said, better to be hated for who you are than loved for who you're not.
Yeah, true.
Like, make a choice, be hated for it, but be a person, and rather than being a slave. That's Prince's message, isn't it?
Yep, quite right. And so, speaking of these big musical legends that have inspired some of the '80s children like ourselves.
Yeah, like Madonna, like we were talking about like Madonna off camera.
Madonna.
Love Madonna.
I can't wait. So this weekend I'm going to see Madonna. I can't wait. Are you going to see it all?
Well, I'm actually working, which is a great thing. One would like to know that one was working instead of being able to see Madonna, because at my age, you're rated by how many gigs you get in a week. So
Yes,
I'm very happy to be working across her concerts. I would have given my right and left hit to go and see her, to be honest.
Both of them.
And if I should hear that she's doing some random show like Prince did at Bennett's Lane, I'll definitely be there.
She is meant to be doing some random show. I don't know where that is.
I might have heard about that.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. Quite frankly, I'm surprised you're not going to be the unapologetic bitch at her show.
Oh, I know.
That
I would love to be the unapologetic bitch.
The truth is you're not a bitch.
Oh, that's so sweet. My God, maybe it's true. Maybe I'm just not a bitch enough.
I say that behind your back as well. She was actually quite lovely. But you know what? Let's talk about your nature just for a minute, because obviously when you were in Adelaide doing the Adelaide Cabaret Festival, a lot of people were saying to me just how adorable you were. You will walk into a room and you will make sure that you make a connection with every single person, and which is just such a lovely, beautiful attribute to have. Clearly, being able, it goes back to that, stage performance. It's about having that connection with somebody, and people just adored you for that. So when you finished your reign at the Adelaide Cabaret Festival, there was just such a big spot that people were missing. And that's why people have embraced. People of Adelaide have embraced you so wonderfully because of that connection.
There's a certain formality to Adelaide that I respect. I was raised around some wonderful maitre d's. Melbourne maitre d's and hosts. There was a woman who, in fact, I think is largely responsible for degustation in Australia. And I think everyone from Stephanie Alexander and all the greats would agree that Mietta O'Donnell in Melbourne was the first person to introduce fine dining and the etiquette and culture that comes with that. Yep. So I was just merely taking a leaf out of her book, and also because I had as a child been enamoured by the concept of like the Cotton Club and the venues that supported a culture that had that etiquette in it. And I was applying that to the cabaret culture because I thought that, if the person meeting the audience at the door was informing them of how to feel when they're inside, then that person should be very big, should be very enigmatic, should have quite a deal of charisma and sort of influence the person themselves to go in there and really expect to be enamoured by the place, right? So that's what a great maitre d' does. Quite right. She says, or even in Paris. I remember going to Paris for the very, very first time. And I wanted to go to that restaurant, the Salon, where all Claude Debussy ate, and then later, all of the poets and Rousseau and, Simone de Beauvoir, the whole clan, I wanted to go to that place because I knew that I would meet a great maitre d' who would make me feel a part of humanity and as equally as valuable as everyone else that's been in that place. And sure enough, they did. Oh, madame, monsieur, blah, 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 would you come on in? Would you care for champagne? I mean, truly, he's talking to two bogans from North Bowen. Really?
I don't know if I'd say bogan.
Oh, yes. No. I modest, modest upbringing.
I am what I am.
I am what I am. But, I couldn't have been any different from the Queen of Sheba had she, and that is, if I was going to say that there was anything that I was hoping to apply, and one thing that I can say with great sincerity is the fact that it's noticed, that it was noticed, is deeply gratifying to me.
Yeah,
I think Ali McGregor is going to have a lot of that because she feels as maternal as I do about the culture, the arts and culture, and certainly Eddie is very potent and passionate about that. I didn't get to spend too much time here, with Barry, but I'm certain that it's always been something that is noted and is encouraged in all the hosts that take on the role.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, their personality, you know, has to capture what the Cabaret Festival is.
Yeah.
I think Eddie and Ali are definitely going to, you know, be able to, you know, really play with that role. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it this year.
Yeah.
Let's move on back to you. I've heard a little rumour that there's an album in the works.
Well,
a bit of an anthology, maybe?
Actually, there's an anthology that's due, and I think probably it's the perfect time because this year I'll turn 50, and 50 seems to me to be so auspicious in so many levels. It's loaded with good and bad. It's you know, it's a bonfire of the vanities. Let's just put it that way. And I think from it's you know it's working out what are the levels of the envelope. How far can you push it? Like, can you still flirt with your band members? Can you still wear Vivienne Westwood? I'm certain that the answers are all yes. Can you go and get smashed and throw up in Rundle Street? No. Can you?
Or should have you ever? No.
Probably not. But before the days of social network, I'm sure we banged that drum pretty hard. But, you know, I think that at 50, for me now, I'm going to have to bang my drum much harder or just quit banging it. Because
never quit, darling. Never quit.
Yeah, but this is the choice a woman at 50 has to make. It's you know, you have a choice. That's the one thing which is grand. The fact that you have to make it sucks. Because when you're young, those choices, it's not. It's just it's just burn, 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 right? But anyway, so 50 is loaded. It's a loaded number, and with it comes a celebration of all that I've been to date, which is the anthology. And I will take a great deal of pleasure in promoting that. It's with great pride that I've had a prolific life, and that I can say I created all these beautiful things, and I'd like to have that as you know, like really, this is where I am right now. Where I want to be and who I want to become is now up to me.
Yeah, there's that fork in the road now.
It is.
It is. Which is exciting.
It is. It's, you know, the life I've led's been amazing.
Heavenly, yeah.
Yeah. The life I will lead.
So when you're doing the anthology, what was the very first, and assuming you've got your list already ready for the album, what would have been the first track that you were like, this is going to be the lead track, this is the song that I adore? How does it work?
Oh, well, it works actually from Kate Ceberano sort of cull, from public first. You know, you ask the public what they like, and then you take it from there.
And how do they respond?
Well, all of the early work, of course, Brave and Bedroom Eyes and Passion, all of those true romantics, very popular.
Young Boys, very popular. But then, of course, you know, a lot of the material from Superstar was rated quite highly. And then there's other things that people can't actually get anymore because they're out of publishing. So it was Wendy Matthews and I did a beautiful record together of what is now very popular, this kind of country blues theme. So that's going to probably be refurnished, and you know, the septet early jazz things. Now, there's something quite cute about an ingenue who's grown up, and now I become the grande dame of this culture. I quite love looking back now, whereas I didn't look at her for a long time, do you know? Yeah.
And now this child at 17 record all the early recordings of jazz. Amazing. I actually can listen to it. I really love it.
The I'm Talking period as well.
I'm Talking's been always a great interest of mine. It's sort of like, I don't know if it's possible that the band would ever have its moment again, but when I look at people like Sneaky Sound System, or I even look at a lot of, particularly right now, a lot of new bands that are hitting this sort of early disco stuff, but it's early disco with that kind of alternate bent. Yeah. MGMT, I just love a lot of Australian bands actually who are doing it. I think I'd like to start a disco band again. Isn't that weird? But I'd love to do it as a grown-up, knowing full well that it's an intellectual activity. You know, like, because when we were kids, you remember those bands? I was sort of like super intellectual, kind of aged actually, and making this sort of band in a box, and it was really awesome.
just recently, just last weekend, we had Pseudo Echo playing in
Oh,
town.
yeah.
Which was
They're amazing.
Pseudo Echo and Belinda
It's
Carlisle.
hilarious. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
My whole band are out here actually with Belinda.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I don't think anyone does it quite like Brian Mannix from Uncanny X-Men. I mean, that guy's a legend.
That guy's uncanny.
There's no killing this man.
That was so cheesy. Oh, God. I'm not sure that... it's funny, isn't it? I'm going to sound really snobby by saying this, but there were great divisions amongst the 80s bands in this country.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, I'm talking... At the time was pretty punk, actually. You know, I'd just got back from London. I'd worked with... we had all worked with London Records. That was our and Scritti Politti was a band that we were quite
I remember them,
in awe of. But I think Zan, the singer, and I, because we were sort of like chic, you know, we want the double-fronted. That London was very keen on making us into some sort of Mel and Kim, I think, and we were like way too cool for that, you know.
Yeah. I remember the video clips, honey.
I know, and I just wonder if we sort of, you know, we probably didn't get to do what we really should have done, which was just gone all hard out and gone Stock Aitken Waterman, done the whole thing.
But then you probably wouldn't be here where you are now, you know.
I wonder.
You know,
I don't know.
once again,
when
there's
could
the
you tell?
forks
How
in
could
the
you
road.
tell?
Yeah, exactly.
All I wanted to do, I know that at the time there was a band, Bow Wow Wow, who I was really keen on, and Anna Llewellyn was, you know, Annabelle, she was someone who I thought I looked like, and in a sea of white faces here, that was a good thing to have someone who I thought I could be like.
Yeah.
And I remember I got to work with Malcolm McLaren over there, and it was this terrible sort of realisation, you know, you're part of this punk pop art, and yet you mustn't ever try to do what people have already done. Not certainly in Australia, because by the time it's been done, it's already 8 or 12 months past it's used by. And Malcolm McLaren, you know, this post-punk culture, deeply loved, and he's like, oh no, I've already had you. You know, you're exactly like Annabelle. I mean, I've been and done that.
Oh, wow.
And I was just so devastated. I was crushed.
My career's over.
I know, completely.
Look, another major period I remember from the 80s was when you brought out your hot single, Love Don't Live Here Anymore.
Right.
And that other American performer, I can't remember, call her name again at the moment, but she actually brought out Love Don't Live Here Anymore exactly the same time. Actually, Madonna, I think it was. There was this feud, I remember. Like the papers, like this feud,
American
like
thing.
the race to the top, you know, these two artists bringing out Love Don't... And, you know, you did it first, didn't you?
Well, believe it or not, and this is a true story, and no one would believe this because it's not written or it was never documented, but there was a bidding war for me at that age. I was about 18, and we had all of the same lawyers and record labels that were just signing Madonna at the time flying into Australia to sign me and the band, because they thought that I might be a possible kind of breakout artist like that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I say it now and people go, oh yeah, you're just kidding yourself.
Yeah.
But at the time, Madonna, actually, you have to put it into the kind of the way it was sort of sitting at the time. I mean, she was like we were. I was going back and forth across from New York. We were knocking around with the same mates, actually, and all of her artist friends, all the graffiti artists, we were all travelling in the same circles. It's funny how one thing, you know, clearly she is a phenomenon well and far beyond anyone's expectation, including her own expectations of herself. And she had something which I don't have, which she had this like ability to see into the future and dominate what the micro scenes were happening and turn them into macro scenes. She was living and breathing within that environment. Now, had I possibly moved to New York at the time, maybe my life might have been different. But I was way too suburban and Australian, and I wasn't able to see the big picture. But she's a phenomenon.
But I guess there's another difference between you and Madonna as well. Is that
I
you
love
were very
that we're
much...
discussing differences
I
between
know.
me and Madonna. Just saying.
I know. This conversation's going to go on forever.
No,
Don't
look,
get bored.
No, don't, please. We should wrap it up. People are thinking I'm going to be like this narcissistic sort of like, I'm loving myself sick right now talking
Talk
about
to me
Madonna.
about the comparisons again. But, you know, I mean, you were focused on as being a singer.
Hilarious.
Madonna was focused on, you know, body image,
She's
all these
awesome.
other things. So I mean, and
No, that's
she is
true.
incredible. But I mean, you were very much focused. Like, here I am as an amazing
Yeah,
singer, right?
Look, what I've always wanted to be is that I'd end up at the end of my life, maybe well into my 80s if I possibly can, to be like a Billie Holiday, where you just have established something for your culture, where you sat out amongst the rest, and like a flower, you just kept your head up and above and stay prolific and working to do that. It seemed to me that the best way to do that was to become the best possible singer you could be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of effort. You can spend a lot of time and money and effort, as you know, in design. But if your ultimate aim is to be the best couture, in the world, then you've got to get your basics.
Yep, true.
Martin Grant's a dear friend of mine. We grew up together, Australian designer.
Yep.
And if you turn his clothes inside out, they're more beautiful than the garment on the other way around. So I kind of, I admire that. That's something, the details and the quality and the careful way you, follow that path. So that it's something that's slow burning and slow sustaining, and that can give you a whole life in art.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
That's actually something that I think people have really noticed about you over the course of the last 5-ish years, that your creativity is actually starting to really spread into so many different artistic fields.
Sure.
Your passion for fashion. Look at me, I'm a poet. The arts. You've got a massive love of art and artists, and so you're really like being this sponge of this creative world at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to think that there was a part that I contributed to arts and culture in sustaining a certain sort of commitment. I think that with the social network and stuff, which is great, but everything becomes a little bit dispersed, and we sort of have this diluted sense of what was formerly very, very potent. It's like the difference between a parfum and an eau de toilette. You can make it sort of so that it's user-friendly and it's cheap, but does it make it better? No, I don't think so. Cool. Well, can I just send a compliment back your way, just very quickly? Okay. So in the time I've known you and during the festival, you take a lot of responsibility for your art, but in this current position as host, there's something really nice about you. Now, I notice you've got written down Molly there. Now, I know I did a whole big thing with Molly because, Molly made my life, actually. He saw me in a crowd as a teenager, and then I was seen in a crowd on his show, and then offered and awarded the opportunity to stand out of a crowd because of Molly Meldrum. I have everything in my career to be thankful for. But you have something which he shares, and that's a genuine interest in people and a kindness. Oh, and I certainly hope that is what makes this work, because we don't have enough, in my opinion, of art hosts who aren't so deeply up their own arse, and whose, I feel like often their interest in others is simply just to get their reflected glory and light, rather than to simply sit and listen and have this conversation. It's important.
Oh, thank you, darling. That's beautiful. You.
That's
why I've got the trundle bed set up at home permanently for her.
Well, wouldn't it be lovely? I did think when I was watching the Molly story, it's time again to have a modern host who could just draw the best out of people. There's a friend of mine who's a writer, actually, Sean Sennett. Now, people like David Bowie and Bruce Springsteen flew him in to wherever they were doing their press junkets because they wanted his kind of journalism, which was really he's the doyen of rock journalism, if you will. And that's because when you sit and talk to him, you sincerely feel like he's actually interested in all of the things that make you tick. Yeah. And so rather than being like a really VJ, he's like all over you like this. So tell me, Kate, so what are you going to do on your next album? Are you got, all that? I can't tolerate it. It's like, you know what? Just get off me, get out of me, and get your own gig. Because there's so much more being interesting. And I think the art is what's interesting. The art is what's interesting.
It really is. It really is, and that's what people want to lap up. Speaking of that, exactly, induction into the Australian Hall of Fame for
Yeah.
songwriting.
I know. I cried. I did that. Do you know what I did? I did a bloody what's her face moment. You know that chick at the Academy Awards when she's like, "Oh my God, Sally Fields.
Yes.
Oh my God, you love me. You really love me."
We should all do that moment at some point in our life.
Actually, the other day I had to do some promotion for a tour I'm going out with for the Apia tour, and they asked me on the project. They said, "Oh, by the way, you know, they always love these sort of, you know, controversial sort of turn around in the middle of those. What do you think of Tina Arena at the ARIAs Awards, you know?" And I was just like, well, first of all, I worship that woman. Her voice is absolutely number one, the best female vocalist in the country. Second to me, of course. But no. No, she's astonishing. She's what a set of pipes on that she has. But she made a statement which was right, and it was a good statement about mature artists not getting the kind of recognition. But I'm like, dude, you know what? Don't use this time, this moment, this platform, when you're receiving praise from your peers and the public. Let them love you. You know?
Yeah.
This is not the time for politicising. And she would say, "Oh, shut up, Ceberano." But I would say, actually, do you know what? Because it only puts attention on what's wrong rather than them putting attention on what's perfectly right about you. Like, just blow wind up your own ass. Just bang that hard. And the reason why I say that is because on the day of the awards, I went into receiving the award. I thought, oh, this is kind of really cute. You know, it's sort of like it's kind of a casual affair. I was sort of like just taking it easy. And then suddenly it struck me that I was actually receiving an award for my songwriting, right? And it's like as though it didn't occur to me anyone rated me as a songwriter. And so I stood on stage, and on the cognition of it, I just burst into tears. I was like, holy shit, like, I'm a musician, which is what I've always wanted to be. I want to be a singer. I want to be a musician. I want to have the same credibility that's granted to the people that I worship, you know? And I'm not just this spinning toy in a frock. I'm actually beyond, and I'm more of that. And holy shit. Oh my God, I sat there and I was embarrassed because I actually couldn't, once they started, I couldn't suck it in. You know, I was like, these tears rolling down my eyes. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You love me. You really love me. No.
But what a beautiful realization to actually get to that point where you
That's
understand.
Ben. He's coming into the interview
Hey,
to tell us
Ben.
we're wrapped.
We have gone on forever. We have got so many more conversations still to have.
There's the tour manager, ladies and gentlemen.
What a beautiful realization.
Come and join us. Pick you up in the...
A beautiful realization to understand that, to get to that you were actually behind your career. You know, that you weren't just up there singing with a gorgeous frock on, but you actually wrote the song and people actually understand that. What an amazing spot to get to.
Yeah, it's a spot that only you, in the end, can take yourself off your, whatever it is that you have been left dangling from, right? Because we as artists always dangle, like on the brink of death, mostly. And I just let myself down off the noose for a bit. And I said, okay, cool. So, well, good. You did something, and no one can take that something away.
No, exactly.
So you don't have to string yourself up anymore. And be left to dangle, waiting for something.
Yes. What's next? Who can say?
No.
And so also with the induction to Hall of Fame, I do hear that there could be an album associated with that as well.
Yeah,
can we talk about this?
Well, I mean, all I can tell you is this, is that I'm curious, and I will remain curious to go and find what it is that's going to be my definitive album. I knew that it would be at the age of 50 that I could truly find what it is I actually wanted to say. And when I say it, it'll be like screaming from the top of the mountain.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Like only you can.
Yeah, well, that's right. Let's hope it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And anyway, you know what? It's only up for my own imagination now. I just have to go and sit and kind of find that place.
Kate, this has been so gorgeous. I cannot wait to see what happens 50 and onwards. I think, the fork in the road that you're going to choose, I think has already been chosen.
That fork in road. I'm telling you, that's fork in road.
A fabulous fork.
The best fork I ever had.
Everybody, we've been with Kate Ceberano. We've had an absolute ball, and we're going to catch you again very soon with SceneTV. Thank you, Kate.